You can call me Mystic Mike because I predict these things.
Welcome to the first ever MMA Mystic roast of everybody's least favorite fighter, Colby Chaos Covington. Chaos is the perfect nickname for this guy because you just never know what kind of nonsense is going to fall out of his mouth. And honestly, I don't think he does either. We're going to get into his fake delusional persona, which is just born out of insecurity and desperation. We'll talk about his most recent performance against Joaquin Buckley, if you want to call it a performance. And then we'll talk about what the future holds for Mr. Covington. I'm going to sprinkle in some tidbits of media, interviews, things that Colby have done that I think are pretty hilarious, sometimes unintentional on his part. But this is going to be a Colby bashing session, so I wanted to bring a little bit of positivity and inspiration into this, and who better to do so than the man himself, Colby Covington.
So we'll come back stronger. It's a lesson to everybody that faces adversity in life. Never give up and never keep coming forward for your dreams and your goals in life, you know?
You heard the man. Never keep coming for your dreams and goals in life. This is going to be a fun episode.
You're nothing more than Tyron Woodley's water boy, so for you to talk shit about me in the media is just, it's criminal.
Yeah, man, the myth, the legend, J.O.P. Son, and the P stands for icon. So, you know, I brought him on. He's my guy. He's the one that got...
It's a strong lesson that Robbie should have learned from his good buddy Matt Hughes. You stay off the tracks when the train's coming through, Junior. Don't matter if it's a Trump train or the Colby train. Get out the way! I just took care of Miami street trash. Now it's time to take care of Louisiana swamp trash. Where you at, Dr. Poirier? You
So Colby entered the UFC back in 2014, was able to rattle off about 3 wins before getting choked out by Warley Alves. He then went on a 4-fight winning streak, and heading into his match with Damian Maia, he had gotten word from the UFC brass that they were going to potentially let him go because he was just kind of a boring grappler type of fighter, you know, not a lot of charisma, not a lot of finishes, things like that. So what did Colby do?
I should have knocked him out! Brazil, you're a dog! All you filthy animals suck!
Turned into an absolute dirtbag, that's what he did. You really can't blame the guy though, honestly. I mean, he's just taking a page out of some of the most iconic entertainers of our era. Most notably, the bad boy himself, Chael Sonnen.
Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck!
But I think Colby's low-key one of the funniest dudes in MMA right now, and a lot of time it's not because he's trying to be. It's more because he just can't really be authentic with this shtick that he has. You know, he's just kind of awkward while saying it. Sometimes he looks like he's about to borderline cry because he's just, you know, trying to recite this script in his head, nervous that he's gonna mess up. You can just really tell that he's, you know, working overdrive. He'll mispronounce words, mess up the one-liners or the things that he's trying to use at press conferences, and the disses that he's trying to dish out to other people. But dude's got no problem, you know, being this delusional guy, saying the most outrageous things to get the spotlight. And sometimes he says some just downright awful stuff to people.
Saturday night, I'm gonna bring you to a place you never want to be. I'm gonna bring you to 7th layer hell. Okay. No, I'm bringing you to 7th layer hell. We'll say what's up to your dad while we're there. Oh.
So he says some awful stuff, But I mean, he's getting the people to tune in, he's getting the clicks, so it's kind of brilliant, you know. So here lies the two sides to Colby Covington. Is he delusional, or is he a marketing genius? You know, he's smart enough to implement one of the best heel turns in MMA history. So whether you're tuning in to cheer the guy on, or tuning in to see him get faceplant knocked out by Joaquin Buckley, you're tuning in, and he's making money off of it. So in today's attention economy, there's no such thing as bad publicity. So I'd say he's kudos to him, I guess, for willing to put on this awful persona to make a little bit of money. I think Colby is delusional in his most recent fight, thinking that he was going to beat Joaquin Buckley, one of the most savage young up-and-comers at welterweight, on 3 weeks notice. To think that he's going to make another run in the UFC, pretty much 37 years old now, very inactive, only had one fight per year the last 5 years, already had 3 title fights. I just don't think that I just doubt that he truly believes that he can make another run. I think he's just saying that so that he can kind of keep his place in the pecking order, keep his spot in the rankings, you know, so that he can come and kind of slide in every once in a while, get a top 5, top 10 opponent, get a big payday, get back into the spotlight, so to speak. But it's this delusion, whether he believes it or not, that kind of just keeps us watching. Some of us to cheer him on, some of us to kind of see what he's going to say next. So it works for the guy. So his fight with Joaquin Buckley, I picked Joaquin Buckley in this one. I thought he was going to be just too big and athletic for Colby at his age, especially given Colby's last performance against Leon Edwards. Just didn't look like that same guy, with that fire, looking to run through the division to get a title shot and eventually the title. So I just felt like Colby was going to be able to I just felt like Joaquin was going to be able to just stuff the takedowns and beat him up on the feet, which is what he did. Colby was saying that he thought it was 1-1 heading into the third, and I think if you're Sal D'Amato or Adelaide Bird, you would give him one of those rounds. But I think it was clear 2-0 for Buckley heading into the third. So Colby said that it was a headbutt that caused the cut. I don't really know. I never really got a good clear picture of it, but I think it was the punches. I think that's just, again, his bravado and his shtick, trying to make excuses that he can kind of hang on to try and keep his stock up there. But dude's tough as nails. Gonna give it to Colby. He comes in there and he fights, even if it's 3 weeks notice. Dude's always down to scrap. No quitting, that guy. But on all honesty, this is kind of the perfect ending for Colby, because it was a doctor stoppage. He can always sit there, his fans can always sit there and say, well, you know, he was turning it around. You know, he could have won the third round and then, you know, got his takedowns and smothered him for the next 2 and won in decision, which is possible. Anything's possible in MMA. We've seen a lot of crazy things happen, especially as of late, but just don't think that was very likely. I think that Buckley was going to continue to land punches and really damage that eye, and I don't think losing an eye is worth it, honestly. I mean, ask Bisping, you know what I'm saying? So, but again, perfect ending for him. He can ride off into the sunset for another 12 to 18 months, acting like he didn't lose, slide back in whenever he wants to fight whoever, get that payday, get his name back in the headlines. But I just really think that his heart's not in fighting anymore. He talks a lot about poker. I think he was saying that he was going to some huge poker tournament this week, actually, after the fight. So I think that's where his future is. I don't even think he was supposed to take this fight. I think he wanted to sub in to fight Rachmanov, and the UFC obviously gave that to Ian Gary, and they're like, oh, but if you want to fight, you know, here's a young and hungry savage who's already training and in a training camp, and, you know, kudos to Colby for taking that fight. But I think he went into that knowing that he was going to lose, but it was just or maybe that he could get his takedowns. I think that he thought that he could get his takedowns and win this fight, but you could tell as soon as his takedown started to fail, he was just kind of, you know, slow to get up on his knees, like, oh, like, I'm probably going to get knocked out in this fight. Like, this ain't going to go my way. I'm not getting the takedowns in the first round when we're dry, when we're both full of energy. But who's to say that Joaquin Buckley wouldn't have slowed down towards the end of the fight? He's never done a 5-round fight before. He's got to defend takedowns. Who knows? But I just don't see the tide turning on that one. So who knows what's next for Colby? He was called out by Michael Chandler, who teased a jump up to 170. And, you know, Michael Chandler, he's just wants to put on fun fights, entertaining fights. That's all that he does. He never actually implements a game plan to win. But I'd like to see that fight, because I think Covington would dog walk Michael Chandler. I think that he would get his takedowns. I think that he would stay away from his power on the feet. I think he's much bigger. I think he's as good as a wrestler as Chandler. Not to mention, I think he has better cardio, and he's just bigger, just a bigger dude all around. So I think that he'd win that fight. I don't know if the UFC would make that, but I still think the Ian Gary fight would be fun. Ian Gary obviously coming off of a loss. Those guys were chirping back and forth. I feel like Colby was kind of avoiding him, but I can see why. I think Gary would win that fight. I think he would just be able to dance around the octagon and kind of pick Colby apart on the feet. He's kind of a mediocre striker. His takedown threat and his pace really open up his punches and give him a lot more success than he would if he was just in a pure grappling match. So I think that Gary would be able to just dance around and avoid those takedowns. And Gary surprised me in his performance against Rachmanov. You know, he's got a judo background that I feel like a lot of people forget that he was really able to use and leverage in defending the takedowns by Rachmanov. So I think Ian Gary would beat him by decision. I don't know if Colby would even be able to get him down. You know, 6'3", he's got a big frame. Colby gets a lot of his takedowns against the cage, so that bigger frame would be in Gary's favor to kind of defend those takedowns, just having a much bigger frame, much longer legs, things like that. So I don't know what's next for Colby. Like I said, he'll probably slip in every once in a while. He'll get on Twitter, you know, call people out, talk trash, things like that, just to keep his name relevant. But the days of Colby making a run in the UFC, I think, are over. As much as I'd like to see that, I think, you know, he's going to be 37 in a couple months, but which is kind of old. It's kind of up there for the welterweight division, especially a lot of the damage that he's taken. But I still think that he could beat some of these top 10 guys in the UFC's welterweight division if he's got a full camp, you know. And we see that young and hungry Covington. I mean, even in this fight, he looked a little soft. I heard that his weight cut was pretty hard just because he wasn't planning to fight. So. But I think if he really focused and took it seriously again, I think that he could you know, beat a lot of the top guys still. But he's just one of those guys that as soon as they kind of get to that top level, top 5, where they're getting title shots and they're getting these big paydays and these main event spots on the cards, they just kind of stop fighting as often as they should. And it's kind of a shame, because he kind of spent his entire prime not really fighting, you know, from 30 to 36, like 30, 31, 32, that's your prime. And he spent a lot of that just sitting out waiting on title shots or cherry picking fights. And I get it, you're making a lot of money. You're making $500,000, $1 million a fight. There's no sense in getting in there and potentially ruining your stock if you can kind of sit around and cherry pick your fights. But I don't know, I think his future is in poker. Maybe we'll see him again. Who knows? But it was fun while it lasted. Thanks, guys.